about the concept of buying a personality ever since these sardine motifs started gaining momentum. I swear to you, I cannot go to a single shop without seeing everything sardine themed or like tin fish themed. And it sounds so random, I know, but overnight it seemed to replace the disco balls in cowboy boots that were previously dominating. The same consumer that was decorating their home with those has seemingly swapped them out for the newer, currently popular tin fish look. It is so widespread that I've heard this summer coined as Sardine Girl Summer, and not just once, but dozens of times. And I keep asking myself, like, why does everybody suddenly love sardines? Have people always loved sardines and I've just been out of the loop? I'm a vegetarian, so I'm like, maybe I just haven't realized how into this fish people are. Because I would think for someone to want to buy a purse with sardines all over it, they would have to probably really love that food. But the more I dig into this trend, I find that that's not even the case. Refinery 29 was one of the many publications that wrote about Sardine Girl Summer, saying these designs transform a divisive pantry item into a playful, wearable motif. So even if you don't like to eat sardines, you can still wear them and participate in this fishy fashion movement. And the words that I'm stuck on there are even if you don't eat sardines. Even if you don't eat them, even if you don't like sardines, you can still cover your home and your body in them. And that brings us back to this idea of purchased personalities. You know, curated identities that are pre-packaged and then sold to us. Because I've been thinking so much about, like, why is everyone obsessed with the sardine look right now? Who is the sardine girl of Sardine Girl Summer? Theoretically, she's someone that lives a life of leisure. You know, she's always at the beach, hence the fish. She doesn't take herself too seriously. I mean, she's wearing fish print all over her body. That also means she's really bold and expressive. You know, she's quirky, wearing these bright pops of colors and this fish design. Sporting this sardine motif kind of signals to the world what type of person you are. You're a sardine girl in Sardine Girl Summer. And these pre-curated identities provide us with this sort of false sense of self. They provide us an answer to one of life's most pervasive questions of, who am I? Well, Sardine Girl Summer allows you to buy the answer to that question without ever having to put in any work to figuring it out for yourself. And companies know this and they use it to their advantage every single day because we are a lot easier to sell to when we don't know who we are, when you don't have a personal style. It's very easy to convince someone without personal style to jump on every single new trend. Because when you don't know who you are, you don't know what you like, but you also don't know what you don't like. And today we're gonna get into all of this. We're gonna talk about the ways that a lack of personal identity shows up in the content that we consume and how brands use that to sell products to us. And finally, I'll jump into tips to discovering your personal style so you don't fall victim to buying products that you don't actually like. No more wasting money on things that you aren't going to be wearing or using a year from now. And I have to say, in a lot of ways, the sardine girl obsession feels like a major overcorrection to the fascination and love of a very neutral, simple look. Especially after getting years of messaging of like, oh, boring millennial gray, the grayish epidemic. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not gonna do that. Now I'm gonna wear fish prints. And I'm really zooming in on the sardine trend here and probably overemphasizing it, but I'm using this as like a current example of this larger phenomenon we're seeing. It's not just the sardine trend, but that's the most current iteration. But you could make the same argument about so many other recent trendy aesthetics. They all feel like an overcorrection to the grayish epidemic, so I've heard it called. You know, Brat Girl Summer, Barbie Core of 2023, like they all feel antithetical to this very minimal neutral look. And we've seen this same idea flow into beauty. As you probably noticed, everything everywhere is yellow. I talked about this in a recent Purchaser Pass, but last year we watched Butter Yellow dominate up until recently when it was replaced by its slightly more saturated siblings Banana Yellow and Lemon Yellow. And suddenly every beauty brand is infusing yellow into their products and packaging. Beauty carries this same phenomenon where makeup brands don't just sell makeup anymore, they sell a vision of a lifestyle. And the products that we consume tell a story about who we are, what we like, what type of life we live. Or at least that's what they want us to believe. And we really see this in the imagery that they use to display their products. Okay, so we have been talking about this in my membership Off the Record. If you didn't know, I do have a membership. And we've talked the last couple of weeks about these very stylized photos that brands have been doing, copying one another. So last year it was the very styled TSA bin. And we have seen that evolve into the more recent iterations like the shopping cart photo or the cooler photo. Again, making that subconscious connection to the viewer that this product is associated with this lifestyle. You buy this product, you could have this lifestyle. You go buy this blush, you are suddenly this girl. Rhode really uses this to their advantage, and we will get into that. But first, there is a sponsor on today's video. And in the theme of this video, I'm really excited to introduce today's sponsor, Idol. So later in the video, I'm gonna break down a lot of different ways to identify and build your own personal style. And a spoiler on one of those things is to re-wear your things. And I know that sounds so obvious, but we live in a culture that tells us the exact opposite. That teaches us that the shoe that was hot last year shouldn't be worn this year, when in reality, having your own personal style means re-wearing your pieces over and over again, a million different ways with a million different outfits. Idol has a collection of fine jewelry with real lab-grown diamonds, 14 karat gold, and what drew me to the brand specifically was that their pieces are modular, so you can wear them a ton of different ways, so one earring actually becomes a ton of different earrings. Like the ones that I have on today, you can wear just as a stud, or you can do what I've done, which is connect this drop down piece to make this more dramatic long earring. The modular element is also a good deal because instead of buying a ton of different earrings, you have different options. Like even this drop down, I could put onto this necklace because it's removable. And also because it's 14 karat gold and they are real lab grown diamonds, you can wear them anywhere. You can sweat in them, wear them in the gym, wear them in the shower. They're designed to last, but they're also set at a really accessible price point for being real diamond. All orders come with free shippings and returns with no questions asked. You'll also receive a certificate of authenticity and a 2-year warranty. Definitely check out Idol. They will be linked in the description box down below. Thank you to them for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back into it. So I really want to highlight a lot of the ways that a lack of personal identity shows up in the content that we consume. There are some obvious answers, and then there are some sneaky ones. The obvious ones are the videos like, what shoes are we wearing this summer? Hey girls, are these still on trend?
You guys, what summer shoes are we wearing that are not sneakers? What jackets are we wearing?
Those ones are pretty obvious, but what are the more subtle ways? Videos like what your favorite fragrance says about you, or what your favorite blank, fill in some consumable good, says about you.
What your perfume says about you and your style. There's something dark, something mysterious, but something shy and quiet. Work in something creative, art, fashion. You put the makeup on and you do it really well.
And sure, to some extent, the things that you purchase are a reflection of who you are, but they don't make up your identity. Your personality is not formed or purchased by consumable goods. And again, there are even more subtle examples of this. The other day, okay, I love Desperate Housewives. I feel like I talk about that too much in videos, but I saw this post of like, which Desperate Housewife character are you? And I'm swiping through, and it doesn't share anything about the character's personality or the traits that make them them. No, it is the character surrounded by consumable goods. Like, oh, well, you're a Gabby if you use this blush, you wear these pants, and you clip your hair up with this claw clip. Again, tying a consumable good to a personality, when in reality, those characters have some very defined traits. You could say, you know, you're sUmMeR if da 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 da. But no, it was you're sUmMeR if you own these things. But it's also things like personality tests, maybe astrology, color seasons, okay? And don't come for me, I also find these things fascinating. And don't get me wrong, I think there is and can be a use case for these. They can certainly be tools to understand yourself better. But the problem comes when we view them less as a tool and more as a shortcut. You know, you kind of get to cheat the effort of figuring out who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what makes you tick, because you have this archetype that you've been assigned that now explains your personality, whether it matches you or not. And again, in some cases, it very well might. But it can also become this framework to define your personality without ever having to actually figure it out for yourself. And brands are able to use that to their advantage, which is going to perfectly segue us into my next section. Okay, I love what I did there. That's not even how I had it in my notes, but it worked out perfectly because now I want to talk about ways that brands use this to sell to us. And the perfect example that I want to just shout about is e.l.f.'s recent collaboration with Pinterest. Okay, we spoke about this as well in my Purchase or Pass, but they did a color seasons collab on Pinterest where you can upload your photo, they'll tell you your season, and then you are met with e.l.f. products to buy that fit your season. Now, I will say I'm skeptical about the accuracy of their online test. I've had some subscribers say that they took it and they didn't feel like it was accurate, but that's a separate conversation. But when you've been sold the idea of this is your color season and this is the palette you should be working within, well, e.l.f., for example, is now able to capitalize on that and sell you their products that exclusively fit your color season. But I think the biggest way brands use a lack of personal identity to sell to us is by world building. And Rhode does this exceptionally well. They are the perfect case study here. Like I'm constantly fascinated with Rhode because of the way that they sell themselves to their consumer. And it's incredibly intentional. You hear Hailey using the language of the Rhode world so often in interviews. She talks about it like it's a place. She's like, I want my customers to be part of the Rhode world. Like this exclusive club you can buy into through the peptide lip balm.
The thing for me with Rhode is that it's not just about the product, it's the whole entire world of Rhode. It's the way I want people to feel something when they get the products, when they use them. I want them to feel that they are a part of something. And for me, that's like this weird little world I'm building in my brain. It's a lifestyle, it's, product, it's a feeling, it's imagery, it's, your phone case. It's so many different things. It's that expands so far outside of beauty to me.
And we've now conflated the idea of buying this product as entering that world. I really think about this through the inception of the shelfie, which is often associated with Glossier. I did a full Glossier brand deep dive earlier this year. I will leave it linked down below, but I spoke in that video about the shelfie that was originally kind of introduced through Emily Weiss, Glossier's founder's blog, into the gloss. And she would go into these celebrity homes, photograph their bathroom with all of their products, and you got this peek behind the scenes of what their shelves look like. And in the early days, it was this very organic look into their collections. But it became so aspirational and subsequently lucrative that we've now seen it copied in this very staged way. Again, this very curated imagery of a bathroom shelf that feels aspirational. And we've seen the evolution of this from the early days of the shelfie that truly was this organic moment. It later evolved into this more curated, staged photo of the branded product in this very lifestyle adjacent image. And it almost feels like now we're getting some pushback on that and some over direction into a very messy look that feels less staged, less fake, more organic. And I put it in air quotes because it's not organic, it's just supposed to give the illusion of being organic while still being equally as staged. Because of Marketing recently talked about this, saying, with the rise of AI and resulting sea of robotic perfection across captions, websites, and email newsletters, consumers are now craving connection in the form of imperfection. The messy makeup aesthetic is just one version of this, from brands sharing lived-in vanities to smudged liners and half-used products to maximalist makeup applications. And why I think this new, we could even call it third wave, which is so highly successful, is it immediately transports the viewer into that world. This looks like you are getting ready in your bathroom. It's not just this staged image of a vanity that feels very unrelatable and unrealistic. It's a messy counter that has the beauty product front and center, so it feels appealing, alluring, and aspirational to the viewer while still feeling organic and, most importantly, attainable. So we talked about ways that a lack of personal identity shows up in the content that we consume and how brands manipulate that to sell to us. But now I want to give you some practical tips. Now, I will start off by saying finding your own personal style is not easy to do. It's something that takes time. It's something that's perfected over years. It's something that probably will continue to evolve throughout your life. But giving yourself a bit of framework can help you be a bit more strategic and also prevent you from making purchases that you probably won't use or like a year from now. So first, some questions and then some tips. The first question I have is, what silhouettes or formulas do you always come back to, regardless of what is in style? So speaking for myself in terms of beauty and what I like in makeup, I know I love matte. Even when we were at the peak of glowy, dewy, I was still like, give me my powders, give me my matte products. That is my personal makeup style. Occasionally I will deviate away from that and I'll play around with some glow, but to my core, I love a matte look. Even if I'm infusing some glow, Generally, that's what I'm going for. And I use this to dictate what I'm purchasing. So even a few years ago when it was all about the glow, I was like, I don't need to buy those products because I'm not gonna like them. And I'm certainly not gonna like them once they're no longer in trend because they're not me. But maybe it means you're going through your Pinterest board and really analyzing all the outfits that you've pinned before and thinking, oh, interesting, all of these looks have a pop of color, or all of these looks have a piece with a lot of texture. Maybe I'm really into a bold color, or maybe I like the disruption of some texture in a look. The next question is, what do you actually feel good in? Being aware when you're getting dressed, when you're doing your makeup, or even when you're bringing things into your home, like what makes you actually feel good that feels like a true extension of you? You could answer this maybe looking in your own closet. Like I look in my closet and I'm like, oh, it's color coordinated, and I'm like, oh, a huge section of it is orange. I guess I love orange. Or maybe you think of your favorite makeup products and you realize you're really drawn to like dusty, rosy tones. And those are the makeup products in your collection you are most drawn to and you're using the most often. And another really important question to ask yourself is, what is your lifestyle? Because what you're doing day to day is going to dictate what you wear, how you build and design your home, the beauty products that you interact with. These are all heavily influenced by what your day-to-day life looks like. I have a friend who was reflecting to me recently saying she always finds herself buying things for special occasions, but so rarely does she have this special occasion in her life to wear these items to, but she spends most of her clothing budget on special occasion clothes, and then for day to day feels like she doesn't have things to wear. So factoring in your individual life and lifestyle will play a huge role here. So some practical tips, let's talk. Okay, my biggest tip is only buy a few things at once. This is something that I live by. I call it my rule of three. I almost never buy more than 3 things at once. Now, obviously this doesn't apply to like groceries and stuff, but if I'm shopping, okay, I'm a huge thrifter. I love thrifting. Thrifting can be sneaky because many of the clothing items are very inexpensive, so it's tempting to buy the entire store because you can. But I really intentionally limit myself to 3 pieces maximum, and I normally stay beneath this because it allows me to be much more intentional about what I'm choosing. You're forced to be a lot more discerning when you're not bringing in a ton of things at once. And I also think of this like around my home. I know not everyone will agree with this philosophy, but I kind of like decorating my space very slowly and intentionally. It's tempting to want everything to be like finished and decorated and finalized immediately, but the spaces that feel the most like me are the ones that I'm slowly building and decorating, and maybe months later, I'll find a piece and think, oh, I want to put this photo on the wall. Or maybe you're out and about and you have this serendipitous moment of the perfect thing just kind of appears and you're like, yes, this is the perfect photograph to hang above my bed. The next tip calls back to the sponsored section I talked about earlier, but wear things over and over and over and over again. Use things over and over and over and over again. Whether that's the jewelry example that I shared earlier, or a very personal example, I have this black maxi skirt that I wear a million different ways. I'm wearing it year-round, winter, fall, spring, summer. I'm always wearing this black maxi skirt. With every possible outfit, I'm dressing it up, I'm dressing it down. Wearing the same things over and over again is part of having a personal style and a personal identity. Also results in less waste and saves you money. Win-win. I really love wearing things over and over again, and I love when things look worn, especially when it comes to clothing, but also things in the home. And there's a word for that. It's called patina. It's when a surface starts to look worn. You know, it often applies to things like metals, woods, or leather. It adds so much character to your home and your space to have things and own them for a long time. Wear them often. And this is a hot take, but I actually like when my clothing and my things look very worn. I think it reflects me. It signals to other people like this is a very loved piece by me. Like I like when my shoes look very worn in. Or I have this dress. Okay, I have this dress that I thrifted and it has holes in it, literal holes. And I know a lot of people would see it at the thrift store and think, I'm not gonna buy this dress, it has holes in it. I actually view those as signs of like wear and love on this item. Maybe it was pre-loved by someone before me, but I think it adds a lot of character to the dress, the same way we think of ripped up jeans. And the number one question that I would ask yourself, the number one question, I think this is how you determine, Is this my personal style, or is this just trendy this moment? This is the determining factor between will you wear it next year or not. Is the question, would I wear this if it wasn't in style? / will I continue to wear this when it is no longer in style? Perfect example, my roommate and I were talking about this. We both love like cheetah and leopard print. Obviously that print has been very trendy recently, but that's something her and I both separately have loved far before it has gained popularity, and we've talked about how we will continue to proudly and happily wear cheetah and leopard print even when it's like not cool anymore and no longer in. And recently, when this has been so trendy, she's bought this pair of leopard pants. And we had a conversation about it. She's like, I know a year from now, other people will look at me and think, oh, those pants are so last year. But she's like, I don't care because I love leopard. Like, I still want to wear and own these pants when it's not cool anymore. And that's such a great question to ask yourself when you're considering buying something, whether it's clothing, home decor, makeup, what have you. Will I still use this when it's no longer trendy? And circling back to the intro with the sardine bag, I would like to make the guess that a lot of people would not. And I know finding your personal style is hard. There is so much noise out there and so many companies that want to capitalize on our individual journeys to figuring that out. But I hope some of the framework that we talked about in today's video can give you a better guide for doing that. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you to Idol for sponsoring this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.